Let me start with a story. A few years ago, I ran into a guy I hadn't seen in about 5 years. He walked up to me at a seminar and he said, "Jim, you changed my life." I said, "Well, I appreciate that. Tell me what happened." He said, "5 years ago, I was broke. I was behind on everything. My marriage was shaky. My health was poor. I came to one of your seminars and something clicked. I went home that night and I made a decision. I said, I'm done being this version of myself. I am locking in." And he said, "Jim, from that night forward, I became someone my old self wouldn't even recognize." Now I thought about that. What a powerful phrase. My old self wouldn't even recognize me. See, most people, they want change. Everybody wants change. You ask a room full of people, how many of you want your life to be better next year than this year? Every hand goes up. Everybody wants it. But here's the problem, and jot this down. Everybody wants change, but nobody wants to change. There's the conflict. You want it to be different, but you don't want to be different. And I'm telling you, until you resolve that conflict, nothing moves. So tonight I want to talk to you about locking in. What does it mean to lock in? What does it mean to become so committed, so focused, so driven by your vision of who you could become that the old you starts to fade like a photograph left in the sun? It just slowly disappears. Not because you hated who you were, no, but because you fell in love with who you could be. Now, let's start with the first piece, and that's the decision. Jot this down. Everything changes with a decision, not a wish, not a hope, not a preference, a decision. See, a wish is what you do on your birthday when you blow out candles. A hope is what you do when you buy a lottery ticket. A preference is when someone asks you where you want to eat, and you say, "Oh, I don't care, whatever you want." That's not going to build your future. A decision is different. A decision is a line in the sand. It's when you look at your life and you say, "That's it, no more. I've had enough of average. I've had enough of just getting by. I've had enough of watching other people live the life I was meant to live." That's a decision. And here's what's interesting about decisions. They don't require money. They don't require education. They don't require permission. A decision only requires you. Just you standing in front of the mirror saying, "Today it changes." I made that kind of decision when I was 25 years old. I was working as a stock clerk at Sears. I'd been telling myself for years that things would get better. Someday I'll make more money. Someday I'll travel the world. Someday I'll be somebody. And then one day, my mentor, Mr. Schoff, looked at me and said, "Jim, I've got a question for you. How long are you going to keep using the word someday?" He said, "Someday is not a day of the week." That hit me. Someday is not a day of the week. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Someday is not on the calendar. And if it's not on the calendar, it's not in your future. So I made the decision, not someday, today. Now here's the second piece. After you make the decision, you've got to develop yourself. Jot this down. Your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development. Let me say that again, because it's that important. Your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development. See, some people, they make the decision and then they go right back to the same habits. Same routine, same circle, same books, which is no books, same disciplines, which is no disciplines, same conversations about the same nothing. And then they wonder why nothing changed. Here's what I learned. If you want things to change, you've got to change. If you want things to get better, you've got to get better. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. Don't wish for fewer problems. Wish for more skills. Don't wish for less challenge. Wish for more wisdom. See, the key to locking in is not about gritting your teeth and just pushing through. That works for a week, maybe two. The key to locking in is falling in love with the process of becoming. Becoming more, becoming better, becoming someone who can handle the life they're building. You want a better income. Don't just work harder at your job. Become more valuable. You want a better relationship. Don't just demand more from your partner. Become a better partner. You want better health. Don't just buy another supplement. Become the kind of person who treats their body like a temple, not a trash can. Now, here's the third key, and it's a big one. You've got to change your associations. I know this is a tough one, but jot this down. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now think about that for a moment. Look at the 5 people you hang around with the most. What do they talk about? What do they read? What do they aspire to? How do they treat their health? How do they treat their money? How do they treat their time? Because I promise you, whatever they're doing is rubbing off on you, whether you know it or not. Now, I'm not saying abandon your friends. I'm not saying be cold or cruel, but I am saying be strategic, be thoughtful. If you're trying to build $1 million business and your 5 closest friends think working hard means showing up on time, you've got a problem. If you're trying to read a book a week and everyone around you thinks the last book they read was in high school, you've got a problem. If you're trying to get healthy and everyone around you is ordering double cheeseburgers at midnight, you've got a problem. Here's what I did. I didn't leave all my old friends. I just expanded my circle. I found people who were where I wanted to be. I listened to how they talked. I watched how they made decisions. I studied their habits, and slowly but surely, I started becoming more like them and less like the old me. That's how it works. Association is subtle, but it is powerful. Now let's talk about the 4th key, and that's discipline. Jot this down. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. See, a lot of people, they've got goals, beautiful goals. They can tell you exactly what they want: the house, the car, the business, the freedom, the travel. They've got vision boards and dream journals and Pinterest pages full of their ideal life. But here's what they don't have: discipline. Discipline is getting up early when you'd rather sleep in. Discipline is making the call when you'd rather scroll your phone. Discipline is reading the book when you'd rather watch television. Discipline is going to the gym when you'd rather go to the couch. Discipline is saying no to what's easy so you can say yes to what's important. And here's the thing about discipline. It's not a one-time event. It's a daily practice. You don't just decide to be disciplined and suddenly you are. No. You practice it day after day, week after week, month after month, until it becomes part of who you are, until it's not something you do, but something you are. I used to struggle with discipline. I'll be honest with you. When I first started my personal development journey, I would read for a week and then stop for a month. I would exercise for 3 days and then quit for 3 weeks. I would set goals on Monday and forget them by Wednesday. And nothing was working because I was treating discipline like a hobby instead of a lifestyle. Here's when it changed. I stopped trying to be disciplined in everything all at once. I just picked one thing. For me, it was reading. I said I'm going to read every single day for at least 30 minutes. That's it, just that one thing. And I did it day after day, and you know what happened? The discipline I built in reading started bleeding over into other areas. I started exercising more consistently. I started managing my money more carefully. I started showing up to work with more energy and focus. One discipline led to another, which led to another, which led to another. It's like a row of dominoes. You push the first one and they all start to fall. Now here's the 5th key, and this is where most people fall off. You've got to learn to ignore the critics. Jot this down. When you start to change, the people who knew the old, you will try to pull you back. Now, they don't always do it with malice. Sometimes it's love. Sometimes it's concern. Your mother says, "Honey, why are you working so hard?" Your friends say you've changed, man, you're not the same person anymore. Your coworkers say, "Who do you think you are?" And here's what you've got to understand. They're not responding to who you're becoming. They're responding to the fact that your growth is making them uncomfortable. See, when you start to rise, it holds up a mirror to everyone around you. And some people don't like what they see in that mirror. So instead of rising with you, they try to pull you back down. It's easier to drag someone back to your level than to climb up to theirs. But here's what I want you to remember. You didn't lock in for them. You locked in for you, for your family, for your future, for the legacy you want to leave. And if someone can't support that, then you love them from a distance, but you don't let them steal your dream. My mentor told me something I've never forgotten. He said, "Jim, don't join an easy crowd. You won't grow. Go where the expectations are high. Go where the demands are high. Go where the pressure is on. That's where you'll find your best self. Now let me talk about the sixth key, and that's consistency. Jot this down. It's not what you do once in a while that shapes your life. It's what you do consistently. Anybody can work hard for a day. Anybody can eat healthy for a meal. Anybody can be positive for an hour. But can you do it for a year? Can you do it for 5 years? Can you do it for a decade? That's the question. Because the people who transform their lives, the people whose old selves can't recognize them, they didn't do anything extraordinary on any given day. They just did ordinary things with extraordinary consistency. You know what the difference is between someone who's fit and someone who's not. It's not one workout, it's 1,000 workouts. The difference between someone who's wealthy and someone who's broke, it's not one sale, it's 1,000 sales. The difference between someone who's wise and someone who's foolish, it's not one book, it's 1,000 books. Consistency is the unsexy secret that everyone knows and almost nobody practices. Here's a little story. There's a bamboo tree, the Chinese bamboo tree. You plant the seed, and the first year, nothing happens. You water it, nothing. Second year, you water it, nothing. Third year, you water it, still nothing. Fourth year, you water it, nothing visible. Fifth year, that bamboo tree grows 90 feet in 6 weeks. Now, here's the question. Did it grow 90 feet in 6 weeks, or did it grow 90 feet in 5 years? The answer is 5 years. Because if at any point during those 5 years you had stopped watering, it would have died. The growth was happening underground. The roots were spreading. The foundation was being built. You just couldn't see it. And that's how it is with personal development. You read the books and nothing seems to change. You make the calls and nothing seems to happen. You go to the gym and you still look the same. You study and practice and grow, and it feels like nothing is working, but the roots are spreading, the foundation is building, and one day you're going to break through the surface and people are going to look at you and say, "Where did that come from?" And you'll know. It came from 5 years of watering that seed when nobody was watching. Now here's the seventh key, and it might be the most important one. You've got to have a vision so compelling that it pulls you forward. Jot this down. The pull of the future is more powerful than the push of the past. See some people try to change by running from their past. I don't want to be broke anymore. I don't want to be out of shape anymore. I don't want to be unhappy anymore. And that works for a little while. Pain is a good motivator in the short term, but it fades. Once the pain decreases just a little bit, you settle right back into old patterns. What doesn't fade is a vision. When you can see your future so clearly that it feels real. When you can describe the house, when you can feel the freedom. When you can picture your children growing up in abundance instead of lack. When you can see yourself standing on a stage or running a company or traveling the world or making a difference. That vision pulls you out of bed in the morning when discipline alone can't do it. I learned to write my future down as if it had already happened. I wrote it in present tense. I am financially free. I travel the world teaching people how to live an extraordinary life. I am healthy and strong and full of energy. I am surrounded by people who challenge me and inspire me. And I read that vision every single morning. Every single morning. Until it stopped being words on a page and started being a feeling in my chest, a fire in my belly, a knowing in my bones that this is who I'm becoming and nothing is going to stop me. Now let me give you the eighth key. Jot this down. Learn to be uncomfortable. Growth lives on the other side of comfort. See, your old self is comfortable. That's why your old self exists. The old habits are comfortable. The old routines are comfortable. The old excuses are comfortable. Comfort is the enemy of growth. And if you're going to lock in until your old self can't recognize you, you're going to have to get very familiar with being uncomfortable. When I first started speaking, I was terrified. My hands were shaking. My voice was cracking. I looked out at a room full of people and my mind went blank. But I did it anyway. And it was uncomfortable. And I did it again. Still uncomfortable. And again. and again. And slowly, the discomfort faded, and what replaced it was confidence. Not because the fear went away, but because I proved to myself that I could act in the face of it. Here's what I want you to understand. Comfort is not your friend. Comfort is a thief. It steals your potential. It steals your growth. It steals the life you were meant to live. And it does it so quietly that you don't even notice until one day you wake up and 10 years have passed and you're in the exact same place. Same job, same income, same complaints, same excuses, and you say, how did this happen? I'll tell you how it happened. You got comfortable? I used to have a friend who said, Jim, I'm waiting for the right time. I said the right time for what? He said, to start my business. I said, how long have you been waiting? He said, about 4 years. I said, let me tell you something. 4 years ago was the right time. Today is the second best time. Tomorrow it'll be even harder. Because every day you wait, comfort wraps another chain around you. And before long, you've got so many chains you can't even stand up. You know what the opposite of comfort is. It's not pain. The opposite of comfort is growth. And growth always feels like stretching. It feels like pulling. It feels like something is tearing loose inside you. And it is. What's tearing loose is the old you, the old identity, the old story you've been telling yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. Let it tear, let it rip, let it fall away. Because underneath all of that is someone extraordinary, someone you haven't met yet, someone your old self wouldn't even believe could exist. So get uncomfortable. Make the call that scares you. Start the business that intimidates you. Have the conversation that makes your palms sweat. Write the book. Give the speech. Ask for the sale. Get on the airplane. Move to the new city. Do the thing that the old you would never do. That's how you become someone the old you can't recognize. Now here's the 9th key, and we're getting close to the end. Jot this down. Be patient with yourself, but never satisfied. See, there's a balance here. You can't beat yourself up every day for not being where you want to be. That's destructive. That leads to quitting. You've got to celebrate the progress. You've got to acknowledge how far you've come. You read 10 books this year when last year you read 0. Celebrate that. You saved $5,000 when last year you saved nothing. Celebrate that. You lost 20 pounds when last year you gained 20. Celebrate that. But here's the other side. Don't get satisfied. Don't let a little progress make you complacent. The moment you think you've arrived is the moment you start to decline. The best athletes in the world, the best business people in the world, the best leaders in the world, they never think they've arrived. They're always pushing, always growing, always asking, what's next? Be patient with the process, but hungry for more. Be grateful for where you are, but restless for where you're going. That's the balance. That's the sweet spot. That's where transformation lives. Now let me give you a bonus key before we close, and that's this. Guard your mind. Jot this down. Your mind is the most valuable real estate you own. What you put in your mind determines what comes out of your life. It's that simple. Garbage in, garbage out. Gold in, gold out. And most people, they're filling their minds with garbage all day long. They wake up and they check the news, and now they're anxious. They scroll social media, and now they're comparing. They listen to gossip at work, and now they're negative. They watch 3 hours of television at night, and now they're numb, and they wonder why they can't think clearly. They wonder why they have no motivation. They wonder why their creativity is dead. Here's what I started doing. I started guarding the gates of my mind like a soldier guards a fortress. Nothing gets in that doesn't serve my future. I read books that expand my thinking. I listen to recordings that challenge my beliefs. I have conversations that stretch my understanding. I surround myself with ideas that are bigger than my current reality. And I limit the noise. I limit the negativity. I limit the distractions. Someone says, Jim, don't you watch the news? I said, let me ask you a question. Did anything on the news last night help you build your business? Did anything on the news help you become a better parent? Did anything on the news add to your health or your wealth or your wisdom? The answer is usually no. So why are you giving it an hour of your life every single night? An hour a night is 7 hours a week. 7 hours a week is 30 hours a month. 30 hours a month is 360 hours a year. That's 15 full days. You're giving 15 days a year to something that doesn't serve you. And then you tell me you don't have time to read, you don't have time to exercise, you don't have time to build your business. You've got the time. You're just giving it to the wrong things. Guard your mind. Be selective about what goes in, because what goes in is what comes out, and what comes out determines the quality of your life. Now let me close with this. The 10th key, jot this down. The person you become is more important than the things you get. See, when I first started my personal development journey, I wanted the stuff. I wanted the money, the cars, the house, the lifestyle. And there's nothing wrong with wanting those things. Goals are healthy. Ambition is good. But here's what I discovered along the way. The stuff wasn't the reward. The stuff was just the evidence. Evidence that I had become someone capable of creating that kind of life. The real reward was the person I became in the process, the discipline I developed, the knowledge I gained, the relationships I built, the confidence I earned, the wisdom I gathered. The character I forged, that's the real treasure. And here's the beautiful thing. They can take the stuff. Markets crash, businesses fail, houses burn down, cars break down, but they can never take the person you've become. That's yours forever. So here's my challenge to you tonight. Lock in. Lock in like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Lock in until the person you see in the mirror is someone your old self would look at and say, I don't even know who that is. You'll say, thank you for being dissatisfied. Thank you for being uncomfortable. Thank you for making the decision that night when everything was hard and nothing made sense. Thank you for locking in, because the old you got you here, but the new you is going to take you places the old you never even dreamed of. I'll leave you with something my mentor told me on one of the last days I spent with him. He said, Jim, don't let the learning lead to knowledge. Let the learning lead to action. You can know everything and do nothing. That's called a well-educated derelict. But when you take what you know and you apply it with discipline and consistency and vision and courage, that's when life opens up for you in ways you can't imagine, standing where you are right now. So lock in. Do the work. Become the person. And I promise you, 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you'll look back at this moment and you'll say, that's when everything changed. That's when I decided to lock in until my old self couldn't recognize me. And it was the best decision I ever made. Let's get to work.